Scientists have discovered how to clone dinosaurs from DNA trapped in amber. Of course, this is swiftly leveraged into a flourishing business opportunity, a series of theme parks with real-life dinosaurs as their centerpiece. But this industry is hotly competitive, and parks are consistently vying for an edge in both the lab and on the ground. You are tasked with managing one of these parks. You must research new dinosaur DNA to create your attractions, hire staff and specialists, upgrade your labs, install rides and facilities and stalls, and of course manage your security, dealing with hooligans and dinosaur escapes, all in the name of profit and creating the greatest dino park the world has ever seen. Dinosaur Island is a worker placement game for 1 to 4 players. In this video, we're going to look at how it plays, the components, the good, the bad, and ultimately ask the question, is Dinosaur Island a good game for you? Now note that this is not a comprehensive rules guide or how to play. It's a pretty expansive game, but I'm going to go over the main beats to give you a good overview of how it plays. Each player starts with some money, a lab board, and a park board. In the middle of the table, you'll put a research center, a market, a victory tracker board, and some randomly selected objectives and plot twists that will modify the rules of the game. Play starts with the research phase, where players can take turns using their scientists to either gather DNA, which they will use later to create dinosaurs, discover new dinosaur recipes, or increase the limits on the amount of DNA that they can store in their labs. They can also pass with the scientist and turn it into a worker for use in a later phase. When everyone has used all 3 scientists, the market phase begins. In turn order, players can purchase items from the market with money. This goes around until everyone has had the opportunity to make 2 picks from the market. Market purchases can be as simple as gaining DNA, or you can buy attractions for your park, upgrades to make your labs more powerful and efficient, or specialist cards that provide you with powerful bonus abilities. Then comes the worker phase, and this can be done simultaneously amongst all players. This is where you allocate your 4 starting workers, along with any more workers that you may have picked up along the way, and you place them on spaces within your lab. This can involve gaining more money, upgrading your pen size or security at a cost, creating new dinosaurs, or converting your DNA into different types. If you've upgraded your lab in the market phase, then you're likely to have a range of other options as well. So you've done the hard yards, you've done the planning, the breeding, you've built your enclosures, the dinosaurs are ready to go, and all you need now are some visitors. In the park phase, you attract visitors to your park in numbers based on your excitement score. This increases as you gain more dinosaurs. Visitors will line up at the entrance and pay you $1 each, but some of them are hooligans. These guys don't pay, but they'll still push to the front of the line. The visitors then enter the park and they have a great time, but your park only has a certain capacity, so make sure that you have enough slots and attractions to fit all of your visitors. Every day the park opens, there is always a risk of dinosaurs escaping. Compare your park's threat level, which is a combination of the number and ferocity of dinosaurs that you have, and an added modifier based on one of the DNA dice that was not claimed during the research phase. If this exceeds your security level, then dinosaurs will break out, and they're going to start eating a number of visitors equal to the difference between security and threat. And they even eat the paying patrons first. Because these hooligans, well, they're sneaky. At the end of the park phase, you score victory points equal to the number of uneaten patrons that remain inside your park. There is then a quick cleanup phase where the research dice are reset with new DNA and the market rows are replenished with stock. All workers and scientists are also reset for the next round. This process is repeated until all but one of the game objectives has been scored, and then the game ends at the conclusion of that round. Players can get bonus victory points for the number of objectives that they have claimed, along with your dinosaurs and some attractions providing chunks of victory points as well. The player with the most victory points will win, as they clearly have the best park. Now when it's explained like that, it seems quite dry, but in practice, Dinosaur Island does flow really well. Each phase goes into the next one pretty quickly, it's snappy, people make decisions quickly, and then you move on to the next person, and the last 2 phases can all be done more or less simultaneously, and that really speeds things up too, and then you go back to the start, and it does flow pretty cleanly. The other thing which I haven't discussed yet is the game length, and that's because the game length is variable based on the objectives that you choose to use. There are 3 decks of objectives, one for a short game, one for medium, and one for long, and they just will take you longer to achieve. So a long objective might be to build 3 merchandise attractions in your park. That's going to take you a while, so objectives like that will not be achieved early, which means the game will be extended for longer. And I really like the variable length. You can play this as a short 3-round game with a couple of friends, or you can turn it into an all-evening park building extravaganza that'll last you 3 hours. The components and build quality for Dinosaur Island are a little bit of a conundrum to me. On one hand, you have this absolutely beautiful box art, which is outstanding, and the colors of all the other components just absolutely pop. The theme is strong, the design is strong, it looks great. The concept here is very, very good, but the execution seems to be less than optimal. The whole production feels a little bit cheap, low quality. The punch card tokens are kind of flaky and peel easily. The player boards feel a little bit soft, not quite spongy, but not solid either. And the biggest offender here has to be the dinosaur meeples. They are plastic and fine, they're cool, but there's only 3 varieties. Now it might seem like a bit of a nitpick, and I personally don't have too much of an issue with this myself, but a lot of people that I've played this game with thinks that it is a massive missed opportunity to not have more unique dino meeples for each type of dino that you can build in your park. It does seem a little bit silly when a pterodon looks suspiciously like a triceratops. If you are someone that looks at this game and thinks, awesome, I'll be able to populate my park with these cute dino meeples, well, you might be a little bit disappointed that it does not completely deliver on that premise. The rulebook here is good, there's plenty of examples and detailed instructions and setup diagrams. It's easy to reference while playing, but it has a weird layout and font and spacing that makes it feel cluttered at the same time. I don't like looking at this rulebook. The components in Dinosaur Island do their job. The colors and the style are great, but the actual production just misses the mark in my opinion. So aside from the design principles, what works about Dinosaur Island? I really like the speed at which player turns fly by. It's always going to keep you engaged because you don't have these long waits, there's no player elimination, you're always looking at the next thing that you're going to do. Constantly engaging. This game does not let up on the engaging. You can't disconnect because someone's taking 3 hours on their turn. That's just not going to happen. One of the things that really stands out to me about Dino Island thematically isn't so much the dinosaurs, but more the hooligans. And I think the hooligans are an absolutely terrific design decision. No one likes the hooligans because they don't pay, they jump to the start of the line, they clog up your attractions that other customers might want to see, and they don't even give you victory points. And they get eaten last because they're sneaky. And I think what this does is it brings into the game an element that anyone that's gone to many tourist sites around the world can really appreciate. The hooligans are a really clever mechanic because they've added this spicy flavor into what is otherwise the boring maths and scoring part of the game, and I think that's something that a lot of games miss out on. People that are into heavier games will appreciate that Dinosaur Island does have plenty of decision space. And what I mean by that is that you have a lot of choices, and each of those choices matters and will affect you down the line. And more importantly, it's never clear what the best choice is. And of course, your choices are influenced by whatever is available in the market, what's available on the research phase, what are the objectives for the game, and what are the plot twists. And these change all the time. Some of them change between games, but most of them can even change between rounds. So you're always on your toes trying to figure out, okay, what's the best thing I can do? Where should I optimize my strategy, my placements, everything? And it really does keep you thinking, and your decisions are meaningful. And that's a strong element for any strategy board game. And finally, I just want to say how much I appreciate the 3 different options for game length. It's really, really nice. So more games, I think, should find a way to work that in because I like it. So we're going to start off by talking about table space, because Dinosaur Island uses an enormous amount of table space. Too much table space. You've got a massive board for tracking score and excitement. You've got one big board for the research phase. You've got another big board that spreads out with other things for the market phase. Every player has two reasonably big boards, and you need a space in the middle for your specialist, and that still doesn't give you room to put your money or your spare workers and reserves anywhere. You need so much space to play this game. With 4 players, it'll take up my entire table, and the table isn't huge, but it's not tiny either. And then this wouldn't be so bad, but it actually starts to detract from gameplay, because as the table gets bigger and bigger, it's very hard to look over and read all of the little things you have to be aware of when making your decisions. And this means if you can't see what's going on the other side of the table, or you can't see what's going on your opponent's board to try and block them from doing something, or you always need to be reaching over and turning over that card to read what it does, that's where things start to get bogged down, or that's when people miss out on making the right decision when they otherwise would have. In this way, the design of how much table space this game takes up does start to detract from the gameplay, particularly if people aren't really on the ball. Dinosaur Island is also quite an unforgiving game. Once you make a choice, that locks you in. It takes up space on your park, or it takes up space on your lab, or that's a significant investment. You only get 2 market phase picks per round, and if you take something that's suboptimal, not only have you wasted a whole lot of money, but that's a valuable pick that you've missed out on. If you overinvest in dinosaurs and don't address your threat level at the same time and increase your security to compensate, well, you're not going to be scoring many victory points, you're going to be losing heaps as all of your patrons get eaten. Now, some people might like this, and part of me likes it too, that there's real consequences for each of your actions, but it does lower the accessibility a bit, so keep that in mind. I do have a couple of issues that appear when teaching new players Dinosaur Island, and this is primarily around the 3rd and 4th phase of the game that can be done simultaneously when people are working on their lab sheet and then working out their scoring in the park phase. This needs to be supervised when you have new players. There's so much information that they have to take into account. Have they adjusted their threat level when adding a dinosaur? Because the board does not make that obvious that you have to do that. Have they adjusted their security level and paid for it when they use the tool bench? Because the tool bench doesn't tell you have to pay, that information's on the other side of the sheet. Have they taken into account what their specialists say? Have they taken into account the plot twists? When they score, do they know that hooligans line up first? Do they know all these little rules that can make them make a lot of mistakes? So you need to look out for that, and it means a lot of reaching over the table, and some people don't like to do that or have that done to them, and it also slows things down. So there's a lot of information here. New people are going to make mistakes. Please don't accuse them of cheating. It's probably innocent. Dinosaur Island is a game that has grown on me with each subsequent play. It pulled me in with the fantastic box art and the great design choices. It then disappointed me with the quality of some of the components and how much table space it took up, and I thought it was really inefficient. And then, after a few more plays, it satisfied me with great decision space. The stacking of worker placement, market buying, and a bit of engine building, and of course, the hooligan mechanics, really do combine well to create an interesting experience. Buried under this mess of cardboard is a very sound set of rules. It is a pretty accessible game, but people that are new to board games are going to be overwhelmed because there's a lot of information. But it is teachable reasonably quickly because each of the phases just repeats each turn. There's no massive twists that come up. On the other hand, if you love your designer games, you open the box and it's like, wow, this is fantastic. Everything here is so well made. I feel like I need to really clean my hands before touching anything. You're not going to get that here. It's a little bit shabby, all of the components and the punch board and the bits. And that's disappointing for some people. But if you are looking for a low-luck worker placement game that's a little bit more interesting in theme than some of those really dry Euro games out there, well then Dinosaur Island might just be a good game for you. If you have played Dinosaur Island, I would love to hear what you think in the comments below. And if you like these videos, I would doubly appreciate it if you were to subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you can know whenever we put out another one. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Another quick announcement is that I've set up an Instagram account for Turning the Table. or I might post some extra mini 3-line reviews occasionally when I don't have time to do a big one like this. So please check that out as well. Link is in the description. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you next time. I'm Merrick from Turning the Table.